She's a senior lecturer of African American Studies and an affiliate faculty member in the Center for Gender, Sexualities, and Women's Studies Research at the University of Florida. Dr. Hilliard-Nunn's research addresses African and African American history and culture, media representations, the histories of Blacks in Gainesville and Alachua County, lynchings in Alachua County, and African cultural retentions. Her most recent article, The Agency of Black Female Protagonists in Hail, Jerima's Bush Mama, and Sankofa, is in African American cinema through Black Lives Consciousness. Dr. Hilliard-Nunn researched and produced 100 Years of Gracious Dignity, the Chestnut Funeral Home DVD in 2014, 45 Years of Triumph and Struggle, African American Studies at UF, the DVD in 2014, and First Footsteps, the Struggle for Racial Desegregation at UF, the DVD in 2012 for the Levin College of Law. She also researched and wrote the script for In the Shadow of Plantations, a video about enslaved laborers in Alachua County, which was produced by the Alachua County Communications Office. With a mini grant from the Florida Humanities Council, she collaborated with Kenneth Nunn to write and produce the Sankofa Black History Flash, which were radio spots which aired on Magic 101.3 in Gainesville, Florida. She served as the first host of the Alachua County NAACP public affairs radio program called The Voice. Dr. Hilliard-Nunn has exhibited her mixed media work at the Regional Gainesville Airport, the Gainesville City Hall, the Center for Women's Studies and Gender Research, and elsewhere. One of her works was featured in the promotions for the first annual Juneteenth Festival of the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center. Dr. Hilliard-Nunn is a spoken word artist and former West African dance instructor who has performed in various venues. She has published 2 children's books, Fuluke, the African Queen, and Books and Drums Makes Deo Happy. The teaching of the Africana and women's experience and a promotion of justice are important to her life's mission. Toward this end, she serves on several boards and advisory committees that are aligned with this goal, like the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center and the Rosa Parks Quiet Courage Committee. Dr. Hilliard-Nunn is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the Gainesville chapter of Links Incorporated, and other civic organizations. A few selected awards that she has received include the Women Who Makes a Difference Award from the Girl Scouts Gateway Council, the Woman of Distinction Award from Santa Fe College, the Andrew Mickle History Award from the Cultural Arts Coalition, the Ida B. Wells Award from the Gainesville Commission on the Status of Women in the History Award from the Pleasant Street Historic Society. I think she's a good representation. So without further ado, I present to you Dr. Patricia Hilliard-Nunn.
Can we please give her a hand? She's running around here so much to make sure everything is right. I was telling her, don't read that, I said, because I don't have that much time. And we want to get started, but first and foremost, I just want to give thanks for life, for health, and for strength. I feel very honored to be here, to share with you all. I'm happy to be here with your pastor. Just an example of the history, coming all the way down from Jacksonville, Florida, part of that rich tradition of Black history. It's interesting, some of the dancers who would just perform from Jacksonville. Okay, that talent, because they have an old, rich history here. People weren't saying, what are we going to do now? They just did it. And they do it to this day. So you all have a wonderful pastor, and to watch him, and he's definitely a teacher. a man of God. He's multi-talented. He knows that technology, and then he's a businessman, and then on top of it, he also has consciousness. And so there's something about just a smart, good-looking, brilliant, spirit-filled man that is just a blessing to every community. And so then to the elders and to the other ministers, thank you for the opportunity to stand here. And thank you to the band, you all set it off right, and to the dancers, and drummers. Give thanks. I saw you all going like this, and then she said something about that, the connection with Africa. That is us. That is us. That's where we came from. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, she has the slides up, and I'll try to follow that as we go along. But I just give honor and respect just to every elder in here. Is there anybody in the room right now who is 70 years or older? Anybody in here? Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, well, okay. So I respectfully, for those 70 years or older, I respectfully request your permission to continue. Thank you, because the elders are the ones whose shoulders we stand on here today. We stand on. And I also share the memory of my grandparents, especially Nana, Grandpa Morrison. They didn't have a degree, but they worked so hard. They're a part of Black history. They worked hard and made sure that we got educated. They worked hard. My great-grandmother used to clean houses. But used to still have time to take care of people at home. She had a vision for us. And like I said, they didn't have a degree, but they were smart as I don't know what. And then last Saturday, buried my Gainesville mother, said farewell to her, and she's now a great angel, but didn't go to college, didn't finish school. But I'm telling you, the wisdom in that woman, the wisdom, the lessons she taught me as a grown woman, cannot be replaced as richer than anything that I ever learned in school. And so that's what I'm talking about when I talk about Black history, anchored in African history. And so it's because of that, it's not to brag, but that's why I don't apologize, because I know what we've been through to get here. I don't apologize. And so I'm just going to share a few things with you today. I don't have time to share everything. And the title is Reflections, Know Thyself. Okay, Know Thyself, Reflections on Black History. Because we would be here a long time if I shared everything. So I said, well, let me give a snap here, a snap there, and then so that I can whet their appetite and encourage people to read, because you know they say the best place to hide money today is in a book. Yeah. Because people don't read books anymore. They might read the Bible, maybe, okay? But they don't read anything else. So I said, I told them about my hiding place for my money now, so I need to go on. So, but we need to pick up those books, okay? Because there's nothing hidden. There was a time where it was against the law for people to read, right? Black people could not read during the period of enslavement, because if you read and you learned, you might get some clarity about your condition and might want to run away. But then what happened when we could read, it's like people are allergic to books, you know? And people come into my house and they're like, wow, there are a lot of books in there. It's like, yes. So read to the children and encourage the children to read. So we can, and we're going to work this out because we're up here. Thank you. I want to thank also Ms. Jackson for inviting me. She's up there doing everything. But and you all can't read or see that. But it's study to show thyself approved unto God, right? A worker who need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You all have always heard that, and it means many different things, but you know, I apply it to this today because it goes back to that lesson of reading and internalizing the lessons in the Bible, but reading and internalizing the lessons of your purpose in life and the blessings that have been bestowed upon us. And I remember that, and I take that. I wanted to say at the beginning, this time last year, I was in the hospital, okay? And so when you all were singing that, thank you, yeah, I was already singing it, but it's when you go through additional things and God blesses you and takes you, you realize me with that song. Next. So this is the cover for the book, The Miseducation of the Negro. How many of you have heard of that? The Miseducation of the Negro. Everybody should read that, even the children, okay? And children, we teach them to be awake to learn. And I'm going to start out by talking to you a little bit about why we celebrate Black History Month. It used to be Negro History Week, now it's a month, but as everybody knows, it should be 24/7, every day, all day, right? And we try to infuse that in the things that we do. And so don't move it yet, go back one. So this is Carter G. Woodson, the founder, and that's his book. And basically, now you can go. He wrote it, he's the founder of the week. And one of the things he said is when you don't know yourself, when you have been miseducated, you like to basically want to be a slave. And you'll behave like a slave. You might dress like a free person. You may think you're free, but when you're even caught up, what does he say? If you control how a person thinks, you don't have to worry about his action. You can determine what a man thinks. You don't have to worry about what he will do. You can make a man believe that he's inferior. You don't have to compel him to seek inferior status. Here's the important part, you all. He will do so without being told. And if you can make a man believe he is justly an outcast, you don't have to order him to the back door. Get this, y'all. He will go to the back door on his own. And if there is no back door, the very nature of the man will demand that you build one. Hello? Say hello, somebody. Somebody that likes to be a slave, okay? And so he encourages us to read and study. And so I'm so happy that you all started with the African dance, and I see some people in their traditional dress today. I wasn't sure. I'm glad I wore this because I started to put my suit on, right? And I would have been mad. And I said, oh no. But anyway, because sometimes I do wear traditional dress. And I was born in Denver, Colorado. But I was raised in Monrovia, Liberia, West Africa for 7 years of my life. And when my family moved back to the United States, where I'm like 7th, 8th generation in the U.S., we've been here. We built this country, okay? But when we came back, people looked at, oh, you were in Africa? You were what? You were in Africa? What, right? What's that? Did you live in a house? Did you do this? I was like, look, Africans will buy you. What you talking about? Did you live in a house? Right? And so I was like, yeah. And what it taught me was so many people had been miseducated to hate Africa, to hate themselves, to hate their skin color, to hate who they were because they didn't know about their own culture, okay? And so how did some of that happen? Next. It happened because of the people were miseducated through films like Tarzan. That's how they learn. Some of you haven't heard of Tarzan, but they keep making it for some reason. And it's about somebody who is a white male swinging through the jungle in Africa. Can you imagine me as a little girl watching that? And they showed that in Liberia, in Africa, and here we are swinging off the tree. And my father was like, you all need to stop, right? Because no, I didn't see Tarzan when I was there. In fact, the Tarzan films were made where? Right here in Florida, in Silver Spring. So people are watching, thinking they're looking at Africa, and this is what these people act like. How else were we miseducated? Literature, people writing books, 10 little ends. And some people say 10 little Indians. 10 little, so through literature, people have been miseducated about black people and other people. Movies, blackface movies, where you would have people representing images of black people in the early movies. In the first film, black people didn't represent themselves, right? People would put on Burt Cork makeup and go and act dumb, right? And then so people started to think, well, that's how black people act. They lost their mind. But guess what? They were copying the songs. They were copying the dances because the dances and the songs were always beautiful, but they put a bad twist on it, right? People can take something good and make it bad and make it evil, right? But you learn when you're being entertained. Hello? Let's go. Okay. Go forward. Yeah, okay. All right. Scientists contribute to the miseducation. You have scientists talking about the intellectual inferiority of black people. Oh, they can't learn. They're intellectually inferior. They're dumb. And so not only do other people start to believe that about people who are black people start to believe that about people who are black. And talk bad about black people. Oh, black folks can't do Black folks can't do that. Oh, you know they're just gonna mess it up. But again, that's because people lost their mind, okay? They don't know. That's again miseducation. And people put labels on black people: primitive, lazy, you can't read it. They have no culture. Everybody in the world's copying black culture and African culture. While black people are running away from their culture, everybody's making big bucks off it, especially in the music. Okay, low IQ, culturally deprived, at risk, uncivilized, disadvantaged. Hey, why don't we start talking about the situation people are in? The child is not at risk, but they might be in a risky situation. Let's call it what it is. What else? Even the very images that we have of God, of Jesus, when we close our eyes and imagine certain images, which are beautiful images that we see here, right? You see images, well, you can't see them real clearly, but Warner Solomon's image of Jesus at the bottom, which is very popular. Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo used models in his own family to paint pictures of who? Jesus. But nobody had a cell phone then. Right? Pastor Thorpe, did they have a cell phone? No. So they didn't take a picture. The Bible described what Jesus would have looked like. But really, in a way, it doesn't matter. And people say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Well, if it doesn't matter, then put a picture of Jesus up that looks like the ones at the top. And the sad thing is, black folks will run you out of the church sometimes. And I come, my grandmother's a Pentecostal minister, and she had one of those pictures of Jesus. He's like, you can take this, but don't take my picture of my Jesus, right? And so I'm thinking that's fine, but you also, that contributes to miseducation. Thank you. Cartoons, Darky toothpaste, the Disney cartoons, the old Aunt Jemima advertising. Go to the next one. So I just wanted to share just a few things about, before we talked about a little bit about the miseducation, but you see this map here, and this is a map of the world. This is a Peters projection map, which I prefer to use when I'm talking to my students. For so long, people would use the Mercator map, which is a less accurate representation of the world layout. And if you notice in the middle, you notice how large Africa is, because you can fit the U.S. It's so inside Africa 3 times and still have space left over. It's a huge place. And so far as we know, represents the birthplace from where all of us came. I don't care, because we're one human family. We're about one human family. Whether you're in Italy today or China or Australia, we are one human family who looks different because of what? Your phenotype or your physical characteristics change based on where your ancestors lived. So if you where no sun is, your skin's gonna be white. If you're where the sun is, it's gonna be darker. But we let humans, man, change us and turn us against each other. But there is but one human family, okay? And we all came from Africa, so far as we, I always say so far as we know, because invariably something else comes up. So, and then when we talk about Africa, you're talking about a place where the very foundations for civilization were laid. The foundations for humanity, people say, yeah, we came from Africa, Pastor, but they won't say, they don't know that people were doing things there too. They were building. They had architecture. They had medicine, okay? They had art. They had culture. They were writing, they were producing, raising children for years and years before anybody ever ventured to even go there. And there are many different places today, many nations today, but it wasn't always like that. Those political things that make it look like a puzzle look like that because people came from outside and carved it up. They actually had a meeting, folks, in Europe, the Berlin Conference. part of Africa, you get to have that. And to this day, Africans don't even benefit from the rich resources which are in that country. And then Africans from around the globe, the rest of the family looks and points their fingers and what's wrong with them? They can't get it together. We are held to a higher standard. Study to show thyself approved. We can't put them down when everybody's taking all the resources out of there and they don't benefit from it. Okay? So let's go. So again, all of these things, African foundations, let's go. And I can talk about different parts of Africa. I grew up on the west side. I've traveled all over, and I'm just going to mention just a little bit about one place, and that place I call Kemet, or Egypt, or land of the black-faced people, as those people called it themselves at the time. And for a long time, because of miseducation, they would write maps with Egypt sitting off the continent of Africa because they didn't want to give credit to the rest of the black people that were there. And people go there today and they say, well, people, that don't look like any black people, the ones from the south, as though some people you can draw a line and somebody's going to stay here and somebody's going to stay there. If they came to Gainesville today, we don't look like the Tumakwa and Native Americans who were here. We don't look like the Seminoles who were here. And the people there today, a lot of them do still look like the Africans, but a lot do have different people. But they also have a sophisticated system of education there. The 7 liberal arts that we study today came from Kemet. Okay? Stolen legacy, no, one more, but the book, this is very important. Many of you know about Greeks who studied in well, you don't know. The Greeks went and they studied in places like Egypt. Took that knowledge back, shared it with the culture. When people told the story about the information they learned, they didn't give credit to the person who taught them the information. They weren't bad, but the people telling the story, and they didn't say where I went to school. If you learn something from someone, you give credit to the person that you learned the information from. And don't hide it. Don't hide the truth. That's part of miseducation. That's a part of our history. Okay, go on. We could go on. Okay, so this year we're talking about a lot about 1619, right? 1619, some people say, well, that's when a lot of the Africans were brought to the U.S. But what you need to know is the Africans were traveling and leaving the continent of Africa way before 1619. They were here in the U.S. as free people before 1619. Okay? We have to stop connecting our history with just that of what? Enslavement. That was a part of it, and we even did a lot while we were enslaved. But you also had people traveling as free people. Okay? Juan Garrido was one of the first ones. Juan Garrido. That came was Ponce de Leon. But you all got this when you were in school, right? They taught you all of that, right? Okay, so I'm wasting my time on this. But Juan Garrido, people used to fight with me because I talked about this one person, this black man, who came here with Ponce de Leon, who then went to Mexico. Mexicans would say, we didn't have anything to do with any Africans. But look how we get confused because of names. His name is Juan Garrido. So people are thinking, well, it must be Feluke or something like that, right? Well, people were traveling the world. They weren't just staying in Africa. They were going, they were mixing with other people. He came here, go to the next. Then he went to Mexico, and he went, go back one more. And while he was in Mexico, he taught them how to grow wheat. Praise God for the fact that he filed for a petition from the king to get his pension. Because in writing for that, he told about what he did. He's like, look, I went here, I taught them how to grow food. I've lived in Mexico all this time. I did this, I did that. I've been serving your majesty. And guess what? I was the first to have the inspiration to sell maize or wheat here in New Spain, meaning Mexico. He took that. He was from Africa, born in Africa, lived in Spain, traveled as an explorer, wound up in Mexico. And then people try to write him out of that history. You can't do it. And he's just one of many people like that. Go ahead. Okay, so we lost a lot of that. I can't even begin. I mean, most of our history is in Africa. I can't start talking about American history, particularly Black American history, and not mention Africa. If you do that, then you're presenting a bankrupt history. Because you don't understand us if you don't understand that. Right? We don't understand why the drums make you move in church if you don't understand that. You don't understand how we move, how we wear our hair, why we like certain kind of foods if you don't understand some of that. Okay? You won't understand the intelligence unless you understand some of that. Because otherwise you're going to act like the blackface character in the movies. Yeah. So when people left Africa, they knew who they were. They were socializing their children. TV wasn't raising children. Here, baby, watch it here. That's your mama and daddy for the day. Okay? Women carried their babies on their back. Those babies would be potty trained so fast because the baby was always what? With the mother. That's the African tradition. Not leave a baby over here you never touched and not getting love and attention, and they're raising themselves, and then we have the audacity to get mad at the children. No. So you left, they knew who they were. They had religion, they knew God. They had spirituality, they knew God when they left. And they went through the door of no return that sits on these dungeons. You can go. They first were held in dungeons. In many dungeons along the west coast of Africa. You didn't get a restroom break. You didn't get a snack break. You were held there until it was time for you to get on the ship. And then people were, they had been marched. Are you going backwards? No, we'll go forward. Go forward. Let's see. Okay, well, yeah, I've got some slides out of order. But anyway, put on these ships, taken to different parts of the world. Enslaved by everybody. Now today people are like, I didn't participate in that. Oops, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. People, we like to recode history later. Everybody participated, including the Africans, selling other Africans. And we know there's always somebody in the family who'll sell their mother for a nickel. So that's no different. And so you had that thing, you had traditional people, you had Muslims, you had Christians, you had Jews who were in the business, getting paid. Selling people. You had people from different countries selling people. And then those people spread throughout the world. You see the map there. The largest population of Africans outside of Africa is, guess where? In Brazil. All kind of Africans in Brazil. Right? And you look, you can tell. Even the people who call themselves white in Brazil, if they come to the U.S., we're like, wait, you're black, right? And when they come here, they figure that out fast. They're like, ooh, I guess I am black, right? But in Brazil, they call themselves white. You see how this race thing, how crazy it is? So anyway, they're spread, and then that's how you created the African diaspora, right? So first we have the human diaspora. We are but one human family. I need to make that clear. But then we have the African diaspora, those more closely connected to Africa. Thank you. Participated in this trade, right? Who were shipped to different places here, there, to help people make money. Don't get it twisted. That's what slavery was about. Using human beings to make money. Are you with me on that? Okay? It was not free. They had to be considered chattel, animals, in order for people to accept their enslavement, and other people, good people, not to stop. Okay? So we have this diaspora, and you have Africans everywhere. Jamaica, Bahamas. And the funniest thing to me, as teaching, you get people from all parts of the world and they come in there, they're like, well, I'm not a black American, I'm not black, I'm not this, I'm just because, I said, why? Because I'm from Jamaica. I'm like, your ship just went to a different island. What are you talking about? Y'all went to St. All ships took people to St. Augustine, some took them to Puerto Rico. So we're all mixed in here. And everybody's Indian, I know. I'm 3/4 Cherokee. My mother was a full-blooded Indian. And then don't even know the mother that they claim, Pastor. They don't know the grandmother Indian they claim and deny the African, the black woman who they know. I'm Indian. Because of miseducation, you'd rather be Indian than claim that African heritage. or grandfather, because they are books. They have stories to tell about overcoming. So let's go. Yes, it was a business. Let's go. Right here in this county, you can see where Florida is. You see the red areas. That's where those are the heavy areas where their slavery was big. Okay. Alachua County had the largest number, the 7th largest number of slaves in the state of Florida. Right here. Kingsley Plantation had theirs. You can go visit Kingsley Plantation. There was a woman there who actually married. She was a princess from Senegal, and she married Zephaniah Kingsley, who was running the plantation. She became part owner. That's from your area, right? Jacksonville, Florida. So it's complicated. We've always been together. The first family of Alachua County was a mixed-race couple. From Micanopy Way, one time. And he had this woman whose name was Peggy. And then they had some children. Okay? But I know that's on the website, isn't it? Alachua County. Anyway, let's go on. Okay. These are some of the owners, slave owners right here in Gainesville, where people had to work for free. And they had to labor. One of them, in the upper right, Davis Levy, had 2 plantations. The Hale Plantation. I actually was a tour guide there for a little while. I wanted to learn about it and specifically emphasize that history of those black enslaved laborers who contributed. Because there's no shame in being enslaved. The creativity that people exert. Who do you think was running things? Who do you think was cooking? Who do you think was building? Who do you think was sometimes reading the books and keeping the books for the owner? Because even though it was against the law to read, some people still learned to read. Who do you think was preaching? Who do you think was running away to the forest and saying, hey, come on, we have to pray and do this? They did all those. Don't let people demonize your ancestors. Don't let them demonize them. That's part of black history. That's black history. I'm all about dates and facts, but I like to connect all of these things together because there's still a lot of people who are just uncomfortable with that. That was our condition. That's why I say enslaved. I will say slave. The slaves that their identity is not slave. That was their condition. Somebody enslaved them. Then when you refer to the owner, it's Mr. Such and Such, or the farmer, or the plant, not the enslaver. Okay? Yes, we'll go fast. Even during that time, you had people who were doing things like Pastor Thorpe, the creativity with business, with this, the technology. You had this woman had been enslaved. She became a millionaire. She was an abolitionist, even though she got free. She wasn't just thinking about herself. Mary Ellen Pleasant, she became a millionaire. So I know a lot of you think, oh, I thought that was Madam C.J. Walker. That Mary Ann Pleasant was one of the early black women millionaires. Moved to California where she could live freely, saved her money, working, cooking for people, and then sent money back across the country to help people get free with the abolition movement during slavery. People like Robert Small, who was enslaved, stole the ship. Some of you heard, was working during the Civil War, stole the ship from his bosses and drove the ship to Union forces, took his family with him, and stayed there. So people weren't happy to be slaves. Oh, thank you, Master. No, they were trying to get free when they could get free. Now, of course, there are always some who, but anyway. People fought for the Union for their freedom, and then for the Confederacy, some did, but not nearly. They didn't even let black people fight for the Confederacy legally until about 2 months before the Civil War ended. So it's always funny to me if these people reenact, these black reenactors, yes, this. I'm like, you are a body servant in the war. That's complicated. It's more complicated. That's the whole thing. But here, even so, when the Civil War ended, we were about business. All right. We were about business. It wasn't like, what are we going to do? It was hard. It was hard. Don't get me wrong. But people immediately set up schools like Union Academy, which is the Rosa B. Williams Center today. You can go on. People started running for office. Some of you have heard of Josiah T. Walls, right? Who was the congressman, the last black person to serve in Congress for Florida until the early 1990s. But you don't realize there were all kinds of black folks doing things during Reconstruction because they could get elected because there were so many of us here who were running for office in Gainesville, in Alachua County, in Florida, and in many parts of the country, okay? They were agriculturalists, as I said earlier, who was already growing the food. If you can grow food, you can eat. If you can grow food, you can eat. So people would make fun of their country cousins, Pastor, oh, well, they're down there living in Alachua County. They live on the farm. I don't have time for them because you're in New York City. But you let a little hard time come, where are you going? Back to the country. You're going to take off those fancy suit and those fancy shoes, and you're going to sit down and say, praise God for these collard greens and this cornbread and this chicken. Because I can eat because they have something that is valuable. If you know how to hunt and cook and grow food, there are people who can't even cook today. You know, can't even get a good little piece of cornbread from somebody these days. But people know how to grind the mill. That is an art. That is a talent. That is a skill. To take a sweet potato and put, oh, anyway, let me not get, I'm getting hungry. Okay. People were worshiping. They were worshiping while they were enslaved. That's a picture of my grandmother, the lower part there. She was a Pentecostal minister. And then there are pictures of, they grew up, my dad, they were in church all day. All day, almost every day. And then one of her aunt and uncle, they set up Pentecostal churches throughout the country. But she went, and the way that we worship today is a part of the way that we worship when we were in Africa, the way we move, the way we get happy. When we're not trying to hold it in and practice other people's behaviors. Okay? That's how we've always done. You give praise. That's just how it is. And that's how people did when they started those churches during Reconstruction. Okay? But there are people who passed codes because they said, you know what, they're doing too well. Oh no. So little things started to become illegal, like standing while black. No, this is real. They didn't describe it like that. Idling. If your grandfather didn't vote, all of a sudden you couldn't vote. Well, that's not fair. Obviously, the grandfather was enslaved and couldn't vote. So in other words, they never wanted black people to vote. And when that didn't work, they formed parties, lynch parties, to lynch business people who were successful, sometimes to wipe out whole towns of people. Right up in the upper left-hand corner is a man who was the Alachua County Sheriff, and later the Alachua County Chief of Police, who was also in the Ku Klux Klan. But you all learned that history too, right? And they didn't like Catholics either because they castrated a Catholic priest, Father Connolly. Luckily, he lived, and one of the things that they learned was not only was the chief of police involved with the Ku Klux Klan, but so was the mayor of Gainesville, Waldo. They kind of hide that little part of that story here. But people were catching it, and you learn to behave a certain way when you live in a system of oppression. You can't hold your head up. You can't look people in the eye. Walking down the street, you had to get off the sidewalk if people were coming your way. And you pass that on to the children. We started passing it on to our kids. Let's go. So you had the Jim Crow law separate, white only. We had, as I already mentioned, there were whole towns that were wiped out because people were so successful. The Wilmington Massacre of 1898 wiped out a whole town because people were jealous of the success of black people. Towns just like Rosewood is here today, gone tomorrow. Rosewood is not an anomaly. It is not unique. Because when people wanted to take it, they just took it. What were you going to do about it? There are many elders who have stories about people where people came and said, look, Joe, you're going to sign that property over to me right now. And he did, because that meant death for him and or his family. There were benevolent associations that helped, though. They were real organized in Jacksonville, though. I mean, Jacksonville, Pensacola, there's some special people came out of Jacksonville. And they used organizations like the Female Protective Society, other clubs, Knights of Pythias, the Masons, the churches. They would meet and say, what are we going to do about this? And the churches, and through those prayers, is what gave people the strength to deal with what? The lynchings. We had to what? Work together. We had to what? We had to pray. Martin Luther King did that later, right? With the churches. But that goes way back to slavery times. That tradition of faith, that's Black history, folks. Amen. That's Black history, and it should be contemporary history today. Thank you. There were business people. You know, Negro business league right here in Gainesville. Go ahead. Anything we do new now is old. Because people were already doing it. We're just trying to get back to where we were. In Africa, in the United States, in Alachua County. The only person I'm just going to mention on here is George Washington Carver. All of you have probably heard of George Washington Carver. And a lot of people say, oh, don't mention George Washington Carver. But I like to mention George Washington Carver because not only did he have the skill, did he have the talent, and guess what? He didn't go to college, he didn't graduate from college. But he was so gifted, he had made all these inventions. This was jail with the peanut, but also with soybean that people are still using, and guess what? Making money from. And he said, the plants talk to me. He said, the plants talk to me. If you tell that to some people now, they'll think you're like, da, 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 da. But he said, the plants talked to me and told me what to do after I meditated, after I prayed. All right. This was a man of God. Yes. And he said, I want something to do that I can help people who can't feed themselves be able to feed themselves. Do you know he did not get paid for one patent? No. Not one patent. Didn't get paid for it. Okay? That's the kind of person he had, that dignity. You had the talent, didn't have a degree, was sharing, working at Tuskegee Institute. People were trying to hire him to take him to the big universities. He's like, no, I want to stay here and help the people here. He's one of many people were like that, but he represents that essence of that hope and the dream of those enslaved people because of his behavior. Okay, Harry T. Moore, I'm going to wrap up because I know I'm over. Y'all have to tell me. Oh, I'm way over. Okay, I can just go now. Okay, I'm sorry. We should have had a different thing, but anyway. But Harry T. Moore, I'm just going to wrap up now. Go on. I won't talk about each one of these. Virgil Hawkins, he had a whole battle to enter the University of Florida. Well, we're almost done. Go ahead. Segregation. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, so on these last two, I'm just going to wrap. There are many stories to tell. I've already told half of them. No, I haven't even scratched the surface. I haven't even scratched the surface. But I'm just concerned because I believe that we are not telling enough of the story. And we're not telling it, starting from home, from Africa, and bringing it. We have been blessed. We have been blessed. And when you are blessed, to whom much is given and to who's been blessed, much is expected. And we have to speak the truth and connect those experiences of the past to what's happening today. Last slide. So we have a lot of elders in our community. We need to start talking to those elders, the ones in the church. Get your tape recorder. Children, if you have a phone, you sit at the feet of the elders and get them to tell their story. They'll say, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But they will do it if you push it. We've disrespected our elders so much that they're not going to say anything unless you ask. But if that elder passes, that is like a book that is burnt. It's gone forever. You can't get that information back after they're gone. So finally, you see the Sankofa bird up there on the right, okay? And it has a bird looking backwards. And it's looking back to the past. It represents go back and fetch it. It's a symbol that comes from Ghana. And so we go back and we fetch that information. But you also look closely. There is an egg in the mouth of that bird. And you're looking back because that egg is in the mouth because that represents what? Rebirth, right? Transformation. So we're not supposed to look back and stay in the past. We're supposed to look back and take what is valuable, because everything in the past wasn't valuable. Take what's useful and needed and empowering and blessed to move forward to a successful tomorrow for our children. Thank you.